Gloves Off is always on point. Bringing you the best on current issues, community affairs, and the happenings around us. This segment of Gloves Off is brought to you by The Best, so pay them a visit. Check them out. This is Gloves Off.
Well. You're listening to Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright then, I miss say words on point, straightforward. No jibber jabber, everybody forward. Issues, facts and solution. Get it at Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright, one other thing is a revolution. Get it on point with Professor Buitrón. Gloves Off, no nonsense issues, politics, community. A better men follow reader. Gloves Off, a revolutionary show with everything that you need to know. With Professor Buitrón. Watch ya!
If you've ever wondered, if you ever had a clue what would happen if Batman, the Avengers, the X-Men fought the 47 Ronin, you will have great hitting, power strikes, and speed. This event will be known as the North Texas Stick Fighting Championships. It's open to all martial artists. This is where legends are formed, where they're forged, where they are founded. Sign up now. Call the number 956-401-4868 and look up the website at www.savate.biz. So remember, this is for serious martial artists. If you're not serious, sit back and whisper about the event. If not, we'll see you there.
Gloves Off. I'm Professor Buitrón, and we're here with a great man, great candidate, Pastor Pomeroy. How are we doing today?
Doing very well, thank you.
How's everything?
Everything's doing very well.
How's Laredo treating you? First time here?
It's been a long time. I came hunting several years ago out on the border close to Laredo, but it's been long enough I don't even remember where. So yeah, it's changed quite a bit in the last 15 years.
Oh, definitely. Laredo just multiplied big time.
That's kind of what I thought when I came in. It was like, I don't remember all this.
You know, everybody leaves and some come back, but the majority that come back are like new neighborhoods, new streets. It's just grown dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
What made you decide that you want to run? Especially to kind of come in here and now you're looking at the whole South Texas and you're trying to say, you know what? I'm going to step up.
But it's not just South Texas. This district 21 extends all the way up to Austin.
Correct.
And so it's actually a little bit larger than some states when you really look at the geographical content of it. But you asked me, why did I decide to run? There were several factors, but the primary reason, after the tragedy that happened at Sutherland Springs, I was hearing the talking points and the direction the talking points were going, and I tried to interject myself more into the conversation when I realized they weren't addressing the problem. That I saw the problem firsthand. I know where the problem lies, and yet they were having these emotional outbursts, kind of like a 2-year-old throwing a fit and just blaming everything rather than trying to actually have intelligent discourse. Well, I interjected myself in a few forums, things of this nature, and it kind of went by the wayside. But then after the El Paso and the Dayton shootings, but the El Paso primarily, I know from experience in Sutherland Springs what really needed to happen after that shooting was to put aside your politics and come in and build a foundation of healing for those people, because those people are going to be hurting. And I saw instead the people who had the loudest voice and the most capability of building a foundation of healing came in and immediately turned them into political pawns and took it to a political talking point. And I thought, if I could put aside my daughter who was shot so that I could foster a foundation of healing, he should have been able to put aside his political rhetoric for a few minutes. And he chose not to. Now I'm worried what's going to happen to those people. And that's when God just really got a hold of me and made me realize there are so many that are governing today that have forgotten that it's about the people, not about them getting elected. And I'm in this to bring the people back to the forefront and what's better for the people and to govern the people.
And I want to interject, and I want to my condolences to you and everybody that happened, because you're coming from somebody here that's being honest, and you're coming forward being a man.
Amen.
And you're coming forward saying, you know what? Now we're going to move forward. This happened to me. You have my sincere, humble condolences.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And my prayers, because that touched me, and every shooting has touched every Texan and every American.
Amen.
So thank you for standing up.
Thank you. I appreciate that, truly.
Okay.
And that's what I believe we are to do. We need more godly people of virtue and integrity, wherever you want to get that from, to quit hiding behind pulpits and hiding behind whatever it is, and get out there and make a difference. Win, lose, or draw. At least I can say I got out and tried, and I stood upon my integrity and my virtue.
You see, everybody wants to attack a property, go after that for a reason. Tragedies occur, okay? Emotions are going to get us hurt 25, 30 years from now. You know, there was, back in school when we studied the Federalist Papers, Madison wrote, and he basically said this, and he placed an element, and he says, fire needs air to grow. If you take one, you won't have one without the other. They were writing up liberties for this republic that we have. And I'm preaching to the choir, but he gave us these liberties and said, you know, this republic is going to be constructed, and we're giving all these freedoms to everybody. These freedoms can be dangerous. One day it's going to overpower something that's going to take away our emotions, but we cannot quash that fire. We have to continue moving forward. How do you explain that? Let's touch base, because this is something that, and we've talked about hunting and everything else. Let's talk about the Second Amendment.
Well, the problem, and that goes back to what I was just saying, that the problem with the violence that's coming into the arena more and more, that we're seeing it more and more, has nothing to do with the inanimate object.
Sure.
The inanimate object can't do anything that's not told it to do by functions. The true problem is a character issue, it's a moral issue, it's a people issue. And I feel as though if we really want to address the problem, quit having these emotional outbursts like a 2-year-old, and let's talk about it with intelligent discourse at the table. That means going in at a very young age. It means going in with our children and teaching them. If we're telling them there's no sanctity of life when they're a child and for a baby, why are they going to have any sanctity for life when they grow up? We need to teach them to realize that all lives matter and all lives are important, and reteach them to love their fellow man rather than it's all about my self-centered ego relative. What's good for me is what's best for everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those words need to come back. And we need leaders that understand that they're representing the people.
Absolutely.
And I know the senator, and I know, like I said, I know the majority of public officials here personally. And there's a change now in rhetoric. I'm not claiming her, but there's a change in rhetoric with everybody. And the way they're moving everything towards disarming, confiscating, trying to do the extreme, when they're forgetting the problem.
That's right.
And the problem in all these shootings were, especially with the horrific event that occurred, was that he was not supposed to have a gun.
That's right.
He was in the air, it was in the armed services, and they had removed his right. But guess what? He was stuck in the armed services records that were not passed over to what? The law enforcement records. So there is a flaw. And once there's a flaw, we need to fix those flaws. And just like immigration, that can have been kicked down the line since Columbine. They kick it down the line, they kick it down the street, and the next one comes in and kick it further. It's time to act. And it's not the AR-15 or the M50 or the AK-47 or whatever weapon they want to claim. You know? Understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And in reality, in this emotional outburst, they're wanting to ban the AR-15s or semi-automatic rifles. However, that's not what actually would, you could have banned it. It's still, with all these shootings we've had, you look at the why they did it, and they would have found something else. They would have used their sidearms. I am pretty fast with my sidearms and do a lot of damage with my sidearms as well. Does that mean that's what's next? If you start just looking at the inanimate object rather than the heart of a man, that's why it's direly important to look at the long game. What is the long game? We need to go in and start socializing our children to respect one another again,
Sure.
rather than trying to find these emotional, well, let's grab this or let's grab that. Now, I'm wondering, is it just because they want to enlarge government in such a fashion, or they really can't carry an intelligent conversation? I don't know. Either way, it's not the inanimate object that's the problem. It's a cultural problem that needs to be addressed.
No, you're absolutely correct, you know. And we start with kids.
Absolutely.
You know, and I'm going to put myself in this perspective. I deal a lot with kids inside. And our dear friend out there knows that. And what happens is that I see kids that come inside that have no, how can I say, respect skills. You know, you put your hand out to them and they're like looking up at you. And you see some of the young lads going out there. I can tell you which young man has a father figure and which one cannot by me extending my hand.
Amen.
And if that young man does not reach out and shake your hand, then I know that there's something missing. Maybe the father's not in the picture. Maybe they come from a separated family, but there's no father figure there.
That's right.
So we need to start this huge enveloping that people say we need to bring dads back. Kids need dads. But as soon as they get divorced, they kick the father out to the curb and they treat him like a criminal. So there's a lot of changes that need to occur, not only in family court, in education. There's a lot of things that are missing.
And you know, and that's the other thing I would say. That's sometimes you don't even have to kick dad out of the picture. In the Bible, in the book of Daniel, Daniel chapter 1, Nebuchadnezzar's telling his Chaldeans, go give me the best and the brightest of the Hebrews, and I'm going to change their culture. I'm going to change their thought. I'm going to change their language. I'm going to change who they are and send them back in to convert everybody else to our way of thinking. Well, what's happening today? We send our best and our brightest to school, to public school, and to college, and they convert their thinking to socialism. They convert their ideology. You were raised with all these things and manners. Your dad, you know, yeah, your dad says he's this, that. And they're eviscerating the father role by saying that, well, they're antiquated. That ideology we don't live like that anymore. You know, don't listen to your dad. And our children, or young adults, are being reprogrammed and are taking the best and brightest, being reprogrammed and going out and teaching that and spreading that to everyone else.
You're absolutely correct. We have to come down to basics, okay? When can I rear my child? Okay, you did that wrong, you're punished. And you have to fulfill that.
That's right.
I'm not talking about beating them up or anything like that, no. But you're talking about rearing your child. You were reared, I was reared. You know,
Training
in
up
fact,
the child.
that's it. That's what you have to do. And that's what we need to do in society. Now you have kids that go to school, they misbehave, the teachers can't control them. Okay? Just like what's coming out with Parkland, okay? The issue we had with the man, when the gunman that went in there. He had a track record all the way up to the 6th grade, elementary school, high school. They knew about it. You see, there's a lot of things that are going on with these mass shootings. Right away, they're blaming the gun. They're blaming the good citizen, the law-abiding citizen. But in every one of these mass shootings, the police knew the problem. beforehand. The FBI knew of the problem, and the majority of them. They're not getting punished. They're not even getting reprimanded for not following through. I mean, so there has to be actions in both ends.
Absolutely.
Understand?
And I think one of the things that needs to be done, now I am not the most technologically savvy individual, but I do realize in this century, technology is to a point, I think that whether it be Twitter, whether it be Facebook, whomever, they can talk to one another. And if somebody posts a manifesto that says, I'm going to go to El Paso and shoot brown people, if someone, like in my case, buys a semi-automatic rifle and says that this is one bad BITCH and I'm going to go kill people with it, when we see them post those things, at that point they broke the law. That's domestic terrorism when they post something like that. And if they've broken the law, now go and talk to that individual. I think there's a way to reach into that.
You know, there's a couple of things that are going on, and there's a lot of people that are very concerned the way they're mentioning how they're going to change it towards red flag laws and camouflage red flag laws. Like I said right now, there's a lot of problems. And one of the problems I blame law enforcement, not the first responders.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about the first responders because they're top notch.
That's right.
Okay, they're above grade. I'm talking about the office pinky that's inside that got that call and, oh yeah, that's going to happen. Okay, you know what? I'm going to file this down here and put the file away and never did anything about it.
That's right.
They should be reprimanded.
I agree.
Okay, and if the FBI knew about the shooters, any of the shooters, you know what? You're suspended 6 weeks without leave or what have you, or so, you know what? Go moonlight at the mall because you're not working for the FBI anymore. Understand?
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen. If those are not in place in these laws, then we're going to continue having that over and over. And they're going to say, well, we didn't know. We couldn't catch them. How can we find out where they're going to be at? Or,
Yeah.
you know, the one that gets me the most out of all these mass shootings was the one that happened in Garland. The FBI was in a car filming the two shooters go in, and it was an off-duty constable that ended up stopping them. Okay?
Yeah, I didn't.
I mean, and people, once you start putting all this stuff together, then people say, no, it was the AR-15, it was the AR-15. No. This is exactly what's going on. If you guys know about it, stop it now.
The AR-15 is just the talking point. It gives them something to blame. Because we're living in a society today where you have to blame somebody or something rather than take personal responsibility that I messed up and didn't alert the authorities that this guy was going to go crazy, so I'll blame the gun. Takes the focus off me, gets everybody worked up in the emotional lather, and then all of a sudden they want to take your firearms.
You know, now they're talking about fully semi-automatic weapons. Okay, and you know, when you listen to that and you start hearing that word come out, fully semi-automatic weapons, and I go,
What does that mean?
what does that mean? I mean, a semi-automatic rifle is that once you press the trigger, one round goes off. Fully automatic is you press that trigger, several rounds go off. So what are they trying to do here?
And it's working in a fashion. Just this past week, there's a diner I go to quite often. This one lady's been a waitress there for at least 15 years. Mm-hmm. And she said, Frank, if you get elected, are you going to ban all these AR-15s? Because look at all the damage they're doing. And I said, honey, why in the world? You've seen me wear a sidearm for 15 years. You know I'm not going to go taking people's sidearms and firearms away from them. Well, they just can shoot so many times being fully automatic like that. And I said, no. It's the person pulling the trigger. It can only fire as much. And once I explained how a semi-automatic, any firearm works to her, whether it be a sidearm or a long rifle, she then understood and said, oh, well, that's not what I've been hearing, because they have a TV on the end of the diner over there that's always got something coming to them telling them otherwise.
Absolutely. Now let's go and let's step up and let's talk about positive. Because I know that we need to positively deal with that. So let's see the other things that you would try to see in long-wise change in Texas.
With the Second Amendment?
No, with what you would like to propose to do in Texas. Not only just the Second Amendment, everything in unison.
Well, one, we do need to address the Second Amendment issues. That's primary. But by addressing that, I think what we then also work into is, again, the sanctity of life. We need to work back at putting the sanctity of life back as a number one goal, that abortion does not need to be taking place. I feel as though that is a enigma that needs to go away completely. And then get beyond that as well. There's many other things that we need to do. I was talking earlier, some things you might say small, like motorcycle profiling. That's something I'm going to be touching on. We need to look at how we can help our Border Patrol. We're down here right now having an Appreciation Day dinner that I was able to just be a little part of to help hand out some things. What can we do to help you while the federal government's still kicking the can or right down the road and kicking the can all over the place? While they're arguing, what can we as the state do to make you safer? How can we get you more people? What can we do to try to stop this, the people and things that are happening so quickly with legal immigration? Legal immigration is wonderful. That is great. And those who are immigrated here legally, they're the first ones to tell us, hey, what can we do to help this out down there? I think all these things need to come together and bring that, as I said earlier, George Washington said our Constitution stands upon the pillars of virtue and integrity.
Sure.
We can't address any issues until we bring virtue and integrity back to the table and have intelligent conversation again. Then all those things that I just mentioned, I think, are character things that then will move into conversations on the other things as well, whether it be education. I think if our schools are going to continually move in and start teaching alternate histories and try to present socialism and things of this nature and having transvestite reading times rather than real history and science classes, we should make it available for parents to be able to choose. I don't want to send my child to that public school. I want to send them to this charter school. Well, they can do that. It's private schools. Well, not everybody can afford a private school. Therefore, I think some of the state funding needs to go to help these parents, put them in these charter schools that is teaching. Anton Scalia, he said that when he looked at the evolutionary theory that's taught as fact, it has got so many holes in it that it is barely even a theory. So why wouldn't you teach creative theory alongside that? And I can speak to that. My degree is actually in biological anthropology, which is, I have a degree in evolutionary science. I can talk evolutionary science, and I love it, because most of the time when people say, I'm an evolutionist, really? Tell me about that. What does that mean to you? Because they don't have a clue what they're saying. It's just what's been pushed into them by a school system that needs to be changed. And that's one of the big things, too. I think if we could change the school system to bring morality and virtue and actual open ideas of all things being brought so you can make an intelligent decision as to what really is happening, well, then that's where you work in sanctity of life. You work in loving your brother and helping your brother and reaching out to your brother and sister, and all those will go together, and you'll see these problems start to get fixed. But as long as we keep pointing fingers at the red herrings, whether it be the AR-15 or whatever, nothing's going to get done.
Absolutely. Well, like I said earlier today, immigration, security, the gun issue, especially with the mass shootings, those are issues that have been a nice little can that everybody's taken down the road. It's time to deal with it.
Yeah, I agree.
And we cannot deal with it with feelings. We cannot deal with it we need to understand exactly what's going on. And people sometimes do not want to hear the truth.
That's right.
Okay? And because the same weapon that people want to ban was the same weapon that stopped.
And what people don't realize, in our shooting, not only was it a good guy with an AR-15 that stopped him, but the man that did the damage in our place, yes, he shot over 400 rounds through the walls. He was a coward. He didn't even go in. He incapacitated everybody from the outside. But when he went inside to finish his duty, his whatever you want to call it, his plans, he had a propensity towards children, and he did it with sidearms. That was his main thing. Was all inside was with sidearms. So it's to think that taking one long rifle out of the hands of people, legal, law-abiding people, is not going to change anything. This last shooting they had, I was just listening that they said on the radio that it was a gun that was made illegally and acquired illegally. that should tell you right there. You take the firearms out of the hands of legal people, they'll still go get it illegally.
You know, my wife's Brazilian, and her father was equivalent to our Attorney General here. Okay, and she walked in as a child, and she found her brother had committed suicide with a weapon. And her father was one of the proponents trying to, let's do away with the guns. Okay. And Brazil banned weapons. It was that strong back then, politically, that they banned weapons. Now it's war zones to everybody else. Now the current president's trying to bring weapons back for people to be able to have weapons, for people to have licenses to carry them, and so on and so forth. And my wife tells me, before my father died, he would cry and said, I made the biggest mistake.
Amen. I believe that.
And she looks at everything going on now, and she goes, this happened over there, and you know.
I believe the AR-15 would just be the first step, because what's happened? Let's say they did it. I can't see everybody trading their AR-15s, but let's say somehow they got that to happen. They're going to realize it didn't change the actual problem. There's still shootings, there's still tragedies, there's still mass casualties. So now they're going to go after the next item,
Absolutely.
and the next item,
Absolutely.
and the next item.
Absolutely. You see, I don't like this semi-fully automatic weapon.
Yeah,
Okay? Because then that all of a sudden means any semi-automatic can be taken away. There's a huge array of semi-automatics that people use for hunting. My biggest peeve is when people come out and they say, well, you do not need an AR-15 for hunting. Yes, but you need to realize what the Second Amendment was for.
Mm-hmm.
It was for a well-regulated militia. We do not have a well-regulated militia. If we go by militia standards
That's right.
of the early 1900s, it's any man by the age of 15 to 45. Now, well-regulated means that there's two types, the National Guard, and then there's the other type, the regular layman. Now, by regulated means that you have to actually go train. Do we have that now? No. I think we should start looking at stuff of that nature. You know, when people say, oh, we don't need it, maybe we should start building a militia type structure within the city. Well, you know, the populace say the rate of 250,000, 260,000. You know what? 50,000 of you men, once a month have to go train, because you all are the militia. Understand what I'm saying? Because that's basically what the second says. And of course, your rights should not be infringed.
Absolutely. I have no problem with men and women getting trained.
Exactly.
We, on our SR team at church now, the church buys everyone who carries lethal capabilities. Now, not everyone does. You know, some are de-escalation techniques, some are nurses. But anyone who carries lethal capabilities, church buys them a box of rounds per month. And we expect you to stay on San Antonio Police level of firepower, of training, of shooting every month. That means going to active shooter training. And because if you don't use it, you lose it. I was very well trained, and I do shoot very well, but I went to active shooter training thinking, how, you know, in my mind, I've got this. After the years, though, when he started yelling at me and room to room, run, all that, I lost it. You know, my grouping went out that big, and I had to really practice to bring it back in. And I think you're right. I think everybody should have to practice.
And we have to. If that's the case, then we have to register these individuals. I don't mind registering them, so on and so forth, just like you register for a selective service. Okay? And all of a sudden, guess what? They're capable.
But you're not talking, you're saying registered people, not their firearms.
No, registered people.
Yeah,
Okay,
no.
No. What I'm talking about is registering an individual. You're going to be part of this militia, quote unquote. So now we're going to regulate you. You're going to have training so many hours, this, and this. That's the end of the story. You're 45 years old. Thank you so much. Bye. Next one. You understand?
Unfortunately, though, that we live because we live in a republic, we can't have that mandated. But that's what I have friends in Finland. I was actually over in Finland, and it is to them when they get out of school, they have to pull a 2-year tour of duty. I think it's the same in Israel as well, but they have to pull a 2-year term of duty. And I think that grows you up. It gives you discipline, and you don't run around here like you said, that kid who won't stick his hand out and shake your hand.
But you know what? That's everywhere else. It's except the United States.
Mm.
France has it, Brazil has it, Mexico has it.
Oh,
Let's talk about Mexico. Mexico has the safest gun laws. This is the strictest gun laws, safest one. Can't carry one. Look at the mess they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If you get caught with a 45, you go to prison. One bullet, you're inside. You're in jail. Look at what's going on across.
Mm-hmm.
That's something to think about because we can easily go that route. We're not going to fix it right now, but I'm glad to talk to somebody that is level-headed and understanding. And I'm glad to see that you're going to stand up and run. And that, to me, is a blessing.
Can I say one more real quick thing? The other reason why I think it's important to run over such a geographically large district, this wave we see sweeping across the United States, I think that Texas being built on real family values and integrity, I think even all these southern counties, these are people who are hardworking, virtuous families that have family integrity within them. We need to be the foundation for the rest of the country till they get through throwing their fit. And we held it down so that they can come back to thinking correctly. If we allow the state, Texas, to flip to like the rest of the country's going, I'm afraid, especially with the census coming and 3 more congressional districts being redrawn, I'm really, truly afraid what my grandchildren will have when they get older.
Oh, same here. And Texas will destroy itself from within.
That's right. I agree.
I want to thank you so much.
God bless you, man. Thank you
God
for
bless
having
you.
me.
Folks, until next time, let's be safe. And remember, if you have a gun, lock it up. All right? Peace.
If you've ever wondered, if you ever had a clue what would happen if Batman, the Avengers, the X-Men fought the 47 Ronin, you will have great hitting, power strikes, and speed. This event will be known as the North Texas Stick Fighting Championships. It's open to all martial artists. This is where legends are formed, where they're forged, where they are founded. Sign up now. Call the number 956-401-4868 and look up the website at www.savate.biz. So remember, this is for serious martial artists. If you're not serious, sit back and whisper about the event. If not, we'll see you there. Gloves Off is always on point. On point. Bringing you the best on current issues, community affairs, and the happenings around us. This segment of Gloves Off is brought to you by the best, so pay them a visit. Check them out. This is Gloves Off.
Well. You're listening to Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright then, I may say words on point, straightforward. No jibber jabber, everybody forward. Issues, facts and solution. Get it at Gloves Off with Professor Buitrón. Alright, what other thing is a revolution? Get it on point with Professor Buitrón. Gloves Off, no nonsense issues, politics, community. A better men follow reader. Gloves Off, a revolutionary show with everything that you need to know. With Professor Buitrón. Watch ya!